Hi, I'm Peter Bell, and I'm here with Mr. Sam Pelaez and George Mannard from GOSSAN Resources. Sam, hello.
Hi, Peter. It's really nice. I was going to say see you again, but I suppose talk to you again.
We'll see if we can't do a video thing, next week or something like that as well. Wanted to do a quick audio call here. I feel like there's things happening. I was reading some of the descriptions from prior news releases from GOSSAN on what next, and you guys mentioned December as timeline for mobilizing at that Glitter VMS property, and here we are, December 1st. So wanted to give you and George a chance to say hello to the world here and get it out to that investing audience who's hungry for opportunities in the junior mining space.
Absolutely, and the timing couldn't be better. There's going to be news flow this month, but today we'll talk about the things that we can talk about. And I think the main message for the audience today is keep your eyes peeled, because there's going to be news flow this month. And, we're very hopeful. And George is here to explain to you and to the audience exactly why is it that we think this property is so interesting, and why we've essentially made it the center of our work programs for this year.
George, it was a real treat to talk to you a few months ago. Thank you for that. Nice to be with you here again.
Good to hear. We're all excited. I'm all excited. Winter's come. So things are freezing up and we're getting ready to drill. And these targets have been, I've been wanting to drill these targets ever since I first noticed this thing about 3 years ago. And it's been really hard to wait. I'm very excited.
Well, in terms of managing a program successfully, you really do have to wait for the stars to align. You try and force a program out at the wrong time, you're going to be suffering with contractors or anything else that could go wrong. So, and with Sam here as a new CEO, it's the setup. It's quite the setup. And are the conditions right? Have things frozen up there?
Yeah, things are basically freezing up, and we want to be less invasive in the environment and everything. So the best time to do it for access is in the winter. No mosquitoes either, so that's good.
What I would add is, we raised the money back in May, and trying to rush something to be done over the summer was not ideal. So I think the market has had to wait a little bit longer than anybody, including ourselves, would have liked to have some news. But what I would say is we took the time to get the right contractors and to wait for the best window for the drill program. We've been able to secure excellent contractors to run this program. And as like George said, the winter is the season that gives us the highest probability of success on many fronts, mainly because it makes the work easier. However, over the fall, we had people, access the property. We did an additional gravity survey. We had some prospectors on site. We even had the drill contractor visit the property ahead of time to investigate access and to look at the ground conditions so that they felt comfortable about the best, when was the right time to start the program. And what I can tell you is that time's coming up very quickly here on us. The market will see some news flow on that front. I expect very soon. And just to go back to what George said, these targets are, I'm not going to say unique, but they are special targets, and I can tell you that everybody at the company is very excited about what could come out of them.
I had the pleasure of being involved in a deal in Newfoundland earlier this year as well. It's a pretty distinctive VMS target out there called York Harbor, a company called Phoenix Gold. And watching them work it has been a real pleasure. And I've kind of had the back of my head, you guys, and Sturgeon Lake, Glitter Lake, wondering what the winter would hold for us with this one. In that round back in May, it was like, yeah, the plan as far as I was concerned was always winter drilling, right? So things are in line with my expectations and what you guys would be doing, where you're at, and getting to the real meat of the story here.
Well, we're very excited to drill these things. It's gravity anomalies, 5 miles along strike from the Sturgeon Lake deposits. Former producers, the big one was Matabi at about 12 million tons. Collectively, the deposits mined 18 million tons, high-grade zinc, silver, copper. So we're in the same belt. We're right along strike, and we have these huge gravity anomalies that are coincident with airborne conductors. So these things are caused by a dense mass, and we're in a productive belt, and this dense mass is likely to be massive sulfides.
Yeah. And the only way to know is to drill them, correct, George?
Correct. Yeah, the area is interesting. Like historically, there's very little outcrop in the area, so the conductors are under low-lying area that's overburden covered. So they were not the discoveries at Matabi and everything were found by prospecting. So there were surface showings and outcrop. So we have a geophysical signature in an overburden covered area that's right along strike from these things, and in proven belt, and the gravity anomalies are sizable as well. So that makes it even more exciting.
Well, and to compare it again to this PXA story, the York Harbor guys, sorry to do it, but like that one, they've got outcrop with plus 10% copper kind of in massive sulfides at surface, near surface, not oxide stuff too. That's pretty bullish for the market, but that's a historic producer, quote unquote, from 100 years ago that did tens of thousands of tons, in a much different underground mining setting from what we're looking at, today. So to hear about those numbers in your camp, did you say 18 million tons? And is that a resource number, or or what was the historic production number too?
That's a historical production.
Yeah, think about the magnitude of that, right? Right, guys? Like that's a big production number.
Yeah.
Right, but when you think about, when you put it in the context of what these greenstone belts, VMS camps in Ontario and Quebec have produced, the Sturgeon Lake belt has massively underproduced, right? 18 million tons is not sufficient. And based on what we know about those deposits, those are distal, right? What hasn't been found at Sturgeon Lake is the proximal feeder zone for the system. And that's where the real riches are. We have reason to believe it's not anywhere on the former Noranda Glencore ground based on the amount of work they've done, over the years. And the continuation of the belt and all the horizon goes straight onto our property. And our property has the big gravity and VTEM and big gravity anomalies and the overlaying VTEM conductors. So we have all reasons to believe that the feeder zone could be on our property. And again, if you look at these historic greenstone belts, VMS camps in these two provinces, they've all produced, not all, but the majority of them have produced north of 50 million tons. Some of them have produced north of 150 million tons. So when you put the 18 million tons in perspective, that's just the sort of like the teaser. We're after the real big prize here.
Yeah, these massive sulfide camps, like the Noranda camp, they're characterized by one really large deposit and a series of satellite deposits that are smaller. The Noranda camp being an example, with the Horn Mine being the big one. The Kuroko camp, it's a typical arrangement of a VMS camp.
And do we have the categorization of which type of VMS? Are you Is that important to you? Beshi type, Cypress type, all these different things?
Well, it would be VMS. The Beshi types are in basalts, and they're like pyrite and chalcopyrite, so kind of low-grade copper. This is true VMS type, so it would be Noranda type or Kuroko type.
You know, we also know from the former Noranda and Glencore production, those 18 million tons, that they are exceptional in grade. They're far above average for this type of systems. So we're encouraged that if we hit the mineralized zone, there's no reason to believe it won't be of similar grades profile. And obviously, with this VMS being 50 million tons is a huge VMS. But when you put that in the context of a mining operation, porphyries or other types of deposits, it's actually pretty small. So this deposits can be extremely rich on a per ton basis. And that's also one of the reasons why we're so excited about it.
Yeah, and this 50 million ton number, I wonder about the size of the prize at the feeder zone and to what kind of depth, right? Like these things can be fairly continuous to great depth in a vertical extent, right? Like we're not talking about.
They can be. Kidd Creek went from subsurface and they're down 10,000 feet now, still mining.
Same with LaRonde. LaRonde is well over 10,000 feet now.
Yes.
But yes, these feeder zones can be extremely continuous, large, and rich. And I have a slide on the presentation that essentially what encompasses what we're trying to achieve here, and is, big mining companies have been made or not started necessarily, but they have been turned into what they are today by a discovery of this nature. Not no less than Rio Tinto itself, but Noranda, Hot Bay, and a few others. They've become senior mining producers following a discovery of this type. So we're not trying to find a quick a quick VMS lens that get some value into the market cap. We're after what could be a really big price, and GOSSAN could be a big rising star.
Well, and so when you talk about a 50 million ton target, are you what kind of a depth extent are you thinking about at that feeder zone?
Well,
Josh, you want to tackle that? I have an idea, but you can explain it better.
We have these large gravity anomalies that tell us this thing could be at scale. What we don't know is the fundamental ambiguity in the geophysics is the density contrast and the depth. So we'll see. The one example is the Horn Mine, which was basically the feeder for the Noranda camp. They mined 60 million tons of 2% copper and 7 grams per ton gold, 12 million ounces of gold. The copper-rich portion of the deposit was 12 million tons, which is called the Upper H ore body. It was 12 million tons of 8% copper. So, these things can be very, very rich. And there tends to be metal zonation. So when you get in the center of the feeder system, it's copper rich. And when you get on the periphery or the outside, they're zinc rich. The Metabe deposits in the Sturgeon Lake camp were primarily zinc. The sulfide minerals were very coarse grained, which made excellent metallurgical recoveries. And yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing like some of this VMS, these massive sulfide ores. You see these things, they're just, amazing to look at.
you add up the value of the copper, the zinc, the silver, the gold, and collectively, because of their polymetallic nature, you get these very, very high values per ton. And this translates to margins in mining. It's early to talk about mining, but we're all excited.
Going back to the depth question, we've had this results modeled multiple ways, and with a certain degree of confidence, but not certainty. We think we'll strike this at about 250 meters, 300 meters of depth. But again, don't quote me on that in the future, right? This is based on interpretations made prior to drilling, so anything can happen.
Well, and 43101 does allow you to produce a conceptual estimate, so well in advance of having anything like a proper resource estimate or any economic engineering studies to really have some firm footing, to talk about mining. We can at least wave our arms, and we can wave our arms within the rules. And what the rules say about conceptual estimates is they want a range on grade and tonnage. They don't want a point estimate. Mm-hmm. They don't give you tolerance bands and errors and how much of uncertainty they want, or as a hard rule in the legal rules of Canada there. But you can give some range of grade and tonnage. And so
it's hard. It's hard based on solely geophysical interpretation. So
there is.
you need a little bit. You need a little bit more than that.
Well, and this this project had drilling before, but this particular geophysical concept has not been tested with drilling.
No. There's been a limited amount of previous drilling that's been on the periphery of the gravity anomalies.
And do you have a 3D sense of the shape of gravity anomaly, or just?
Well, this is the thing. We know that the deposits that were previously mined in the camp were tabular to lenticular, and when you model a gravity anomaly, you can model a sphere, you can model a cylinder. You can model a sheet-like body. You can model a tabular body, and then, we basically don't know if you put a tabular model on it. It can be a very, very sizable thing.
Yeah, and then that has to do with what part of the system you're in, right? If you're in the feeder versus if you're out where the
what it's doing is it's the gravity is identifying a source which is greater density than the surrounding rock. So what we have is something of higher density than the surrounding rock, and that's what it's telling you.
Which is typical for a VMS, right?
The specific gravity for a VMS is, say, 3.5 to 4, where it's sitting in a surrounding rock with a specific gravity of about 2.7. So if you change, you can get the same gravity profile from an extremely an extreme density contrast from a small body at depth or a moderate density contrast from a larger body near surface. So these are the fundamental ambiguities in interpretation. But because of the magnitude of these gravity anomalies at 1 milligal, we know it's likely a very dense source, like a specific gravity of 4, which would coincide with massive sulfides.
Yeah, thanks. I was wondering how they measured the numbers on the gravity surveys and how that correlated with the specific gravity numbers. That, I'm somewhat used to using those specific gravity numbers to kind of estimate volume to tonnage, right? But
yes,
then,
exactly.
But the specific, but with the stuff with how they measure the surveys results. So that was a pretty detailed question that I was wondering about too, and just the order of magnitude of the contrast and what that was kind of telling you about.
Well, you can use case histories. There's a case history of Nuevos Pueblos in Portugal, and
that's the Lundin mine, the Lundin deposit, right? The Lundin mine.
Yes. So
okay.
that was a 0.5 milligal anomaly at 250 meters depth. And the other one is Louvicourt, which I was involved in, which was a 15 million ton deposit at 500 meters depth, and it was a 0.4 milligal anomaly. So we're sitting on 1 milligal anomalies.
What we have no certainty over is the depth of the center of gravity, right? So that's what George refers to as the ambiguity, right? Because
exactly.
if we knew the center of gravity at depth, what depth it is, we could perfectly interpret the gravity signature to that to get a sense for scale. But George, correct me if I'm wrong. Based on a given signature on the gravity, on the residual gravity, the deeper it is, the larger it has to be to give the same signature. Correct. So if it's 10 million tons at surface, it has to be 20 million tons if it's deeper to give you the same signature.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes. In relation to its density contrast. So the thing is,
and that's where the residual gravity comment comes into the Sam in passing, the fine art of geophysics here. Yes.
So what we've done is we've sort of modeled this, assuming it's reasonably close to surface, and we have an idea. And I really can't say this number out because it's based on assumptions. But the way we modeled it being close to surface, it still yields a very sizable deposit. So that's the encouraging part, right? Based on this residual gravity and the different modeling that you can do with it, if we take conservative assumptions and essentially put it near surface, it yields a sizable deposit. So, if it's deeper, it'll be even larger than that. So we're chasing something that we know has sizable tonnage, regardless of how close to surface it is, right?
Yeah.
And I'll give Eric Sprott a shout out with his speech, Reality versus Conservatism, and how he admonishes junior mining CEOs who are trying to be conservative in this, and says, guys, no, be realistic if you can, please. As best as you can give me a clear shot of what you think's happening. Don't, discount it by half so that you can beat your own numbers or anything like that. Please give me the straight good. We can cut it back or adjust it whether I believe.
Well, that's wishful thinking and unlikely to occur in a market where there's people competing for a limited pool of risk capital.
Yeah, and he's an accountant, so does he really want to appreciate the subtle details of the gravity contrast and what, the geological concepts at play, right? He's kind of he wants to know that there are good people involved in supervising and planning and executing, right? And that's an important element.
And then it falls to into the risk reward spectrum of our business. So he's aware of that. You know, he's done very well, and he spreads his bets too. You know, it's a shotgun approach. You know,
and I think
within the probabilities of the risk reward spectrum, you know, you get one that goes up 10-fold, 100-fold, and it makes the whole portfolio of 50 stocks look pretty good, eh?
Well, and or the 3 or the 5 projects or the 8 projects, you know, that a company may have, right? Because you look at GOSSAN and wow, there's a lot of stuff in there. Like somebody wants me to ask about the silica royalty too. Don't forget to ask about that. Hold on, what's silica royalty? What are we talking about? Other people want me to ask about Newfoundland. Oh, what's to do? No, guys. Here, let's story. But the story right now is the drill program getting ready to go. That's
We won't talk about our diversification on the periodic chart right now.
I mean, we've communicated to the market very clearly where our focus is. You know, we have the wonderful situation to have more property that we can advance at one time, and we have exposure to a number of other metals and minerals. But for now, we want the market to be focused on the 2 properties that we can advance right now, or that we're focused on advancing right now, and that's the Glitter property. We've renamed it Glitter after the specific area where it sits within the Sturgeon Lake Belt, and our Gander property. Those are the 2 properties that we're actively working on. And like I've told the market, the Glitter property is much more advanced. It's drill ready. That's why we're drilling it. The price could be big, as we've discussed. Whereas a Gander, it's much earlier stage. We recognize it's a very exciting area play, and we're doing the work systematically to advance it in the right way. We're not going to rush ahead to try to drill ahead of time. We're ticking the boxes in the right order and doing the very logical, sequential geological work to de-risk the property and to find the best places to drill. So we'll talk more about that in the next year.
Yep.
But for now, for the month of December, January, and February, you should be watching what's happening at Glitter, and we will be press releasing details and work events to the market as it occurs, and we're very excited.
Well, and it's a pretty vanilla Ontario program, really, in some ways. You know, I don't do a lot of exploration stuff in Ontario, and I find it's a little crowded. You know, there's enough smart people out there already looking around stuff that I have not in my career found a lot of investment opportunities there. It's already kind of picked over and stuff like this. So, you know, this GOSSAN one is a new thing for me, but it seems like kind of a classic Ontario story. And I wonder, downhole instrumentation, are you going to do anything fancy with any kind of downhole surveys?
Yeah, we will. We'll do that. It depends what we see in the core. You know, obviously, if we've got great widths of ore grade mineralization, then we know where it is.
Yeah, and the beauty with the CMS stuff is when you're in it, you know it too, right?
It can give you a good interpretation of off-hole conductors in proximity, and it can also enable you to be able to trace conductivity at depth, so you can get an idea of the depth extension of something you'd see in a shallow drill hole.
Yeah.
But we have to see what we get, and but the borehole pulse EM can be a very powerful tool and helpful in the subsequent stages of exploration.
We've discussed this internally, and we've come to the conclusion that it is certainly something we want to do, but it's best used when you've already have a number of holes drilled, right? It's not very useful if you drill 2 holes and then try to run the borehole EM on those 2 holes. It's much more significant when you do it systematically across a larger number of holes, because then it gives you more points, right, to interpolate from. Whereas, so that I think that's something we're going to look at closer to the end of this program. So call it sometime in February maybe. But we do recognize the benefits and how useful it can be for targeting in the future.
Well, and conditional on success too, right? Having a conditional on success, and within this program potentially.
Yeah, the primary objective of this program is to determine the causative bodies of the gravity anomalies.
Yeah, pretty simple question. And to what degree do those gravity anomalies kind of blur out if they're at greater depth than maybe you saw, or how sharp are the boundaries on?
If you do a line of gravity stations as kind of like a cross section across the surface, what happens is if it's at depth, you'll get a broad, low amplitude peak. If it's near surface, you'll get a sharper peak. Do you understand, Peter?
Oh, yeah, of course. And so at this point, you don't really have an answer in terms of where it is at depth.
That's it. Well, yes. What we do know is that the stratigraphy or the layering in the rock is inclined steeply to the north, or dipping steeply to the north. So if the thing is deeper seated, you'll see the center of gravity shifted to the north of where the conductive bodies are detected near surface. So you can get a gauge on depth that way, assuming that you know the dip. And the assumption you make is that the dip is the same as it is 5 miles to the west in where they mined, and the geology is better understood.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned that you did another gravity survey yourself this fall. Was that correct?
Yeah, we filled in a bit where we did some fill in and we extended it to the west, and it seems to indicate that the anomalies are marginally more extensive than were previously known.
Yeah. Did you go back over the area that had been done before and try and confirm, or?
Yes.
Exciting.
Yeah, so
stuff.
it essentially showed exactly the same data that we already have, just over a larger area, right? We were able to extend the area of coverage, and it continues to not perfectly, but nearly perfectly overlay with the D10 conductors, which is exactly the signature that we're looking to drill into, right?
Exactly.
We have a greater area to drill than we previously were planning to, which frankly we expected. The data just validated the expectation, and obviously gives us more confidence in terms of planning the drill program and exactly where we're trying to hit the bodies.
And when
it's also
was the mine nearby? When decade was it running?
Go ahead. The Glencore Noranda properties, that was the 70s to the 90s. I think 73 to early 90s. Yeah. And there was plenty of drilling on that side of the belt. So we know, and one of our directors, Hamid, obviously he did his PhD on that property and also worked professionally for Noranda and for Glencore in that camp. So we have a very deep understanding of the dynamics of this greenstone belt.
He's a career researcher in that area. He's a real expert.
Amazing to have him involved, and he gets a chance to see you guys take a run at it.
And even since the 90s, he's always known or felt that the east extension of the greenstone belt was the real prospective area, and he's found his way into whoever held that property. It was held by a company prior to GOSSAN. They did a little bit of surface work. Some of the VTEM work was done by them. It was later redone by GOSSAN, but he's been affiliated with the property because for a long time. But he's never been in a position where we are right now, where we have the funding to seriously drill into the right targets.
Yeah. Well, and it's amazing that it's been in GOSSAN for years as well, and then it was just what changes lead to the situation where we are now, right?
Well, you have exploration and people with exploration and mining background involved in GOSSAN now.
Yeah,
and
people are hungry, hungry for big wins, right?
Well, that's it. If you're sitting there with a collection of very interesting assets that have accumulated over 30 years, it's hard to know what the priority is. Yep. You can look at some of the historical disclosure of GOSSAN, but they were just fishing around for anything that was financeable.
Well, and some of the stuff they've had on the books for a long time. I've studied some of the projects in depth, and I've liked what I've seen. But it's getting them inertia. It's getting things going from a standstill is always tough, and keeping things moving is tough. So it's a credit to you guys for getting things going here on the name Glitter too. And there's no plans for any prospecting. I guess the season's out now with snow on the ground, but
yeah, we got some. So yeah, we got some prospecting in.
Oh, okay.
We got some,
is there any chance of any hot copper numbers at surface? Right.
Yeah, there's chalcopyrite occurrences in the immediate footwall of the big gravity anomaly.
Yeah.
So
because that's kind of
that stuff's out for assay, but it's
Perfect.
been identified in the field.
Yeah, it's basically identified. We're still waiting for the assay results before we decide how material it is and if it needs to be communicated to the market.
Yeah. Well, and
but
portfolio approach to exploration planning, right? To have a few things going on and to be able to get on base with some news flow and kind of supplement things while waiting for drilling and lower risk stuff.
The prospecting was very useful on a number of fronts. Obviously, number one, that we haven't done any material work on the property since 2018, so it was good to go back to the property, clean it up, etc. But
establish access.
Correct. And the most important thing was, we pretty much have every possible signature for a VMS deposit, except the only thing we were missing were the chalcopyrite outcrops. or any massive sulfide outcrops really. And this program found them. And so now we have the full suite of indicators, all overlaid over each other.
Yeah.
So
Beautiful.
this is as good.
Beautiful.
This is as good as it gets before you drill. Now, when we drill, the market will know if we hit or not. That's up to Mother Nature at this point. But we've de-risked this property to the point where the most logical next step is to spend the money on drilling, and that's what we're doing. We've gone through the process of de-risking it up to this point on every possible angle, and now we've just reached the end of the road. We can't really do any more work to de-risk it other than bring the drillers in.
Go for the jugular. Time for the definitive test. It is. But the little stuff along the way matters too, though. The surface work, I'm glad you did that. That's, and to have some progress on that and finding new things there. Like, yes, that's important.
Exactly.
We gonna ask. Sorry, just thinking how to articulate it.
Well, we're bringing in the truth machines. That's the drill.
And this is the question. How much kind of documentation can we expect along the way as you go, right? Like core pictures of drill core, before assays are out? Are we going to be potentially seeing boxes? They're on a truck here. We're driving them back, and we're going to open this one up, guys. Have a look. More companies are doing that all the time.
It's
a pretty controversial thing to do, but
but with the very extended turnaround times at the assay labs now, VMS, you can get a very good visual on it. You don't even have to see it. All you got to do is pick up the boxes, and when the boxes are really heavy, you have massive sulfides. So what happens is you're seeing a tendency of people putting out visuals, and certainly if we get something and it's potentially material, we don't want any word to spread where it could cause something unexplained in the marketplace where the information isn't out. So if we get something really good, we'd release visuals with a qualified person signing off on it.
Yeah. And would you go so far as to even zap it with an XRF or do any kind of quarter core and a little?
I've logged lots of massive sulfide core, and we could routinely visually estimate it to 0.1% for copper.
God.
Zinc is a little more difficult, but there's the possibility for that. You could release modal abundances or volume percent estimates from a qualified person. That would be like a new step in visual disclosure, but it could be done with coarse grain sulfides. That's with the proper disclosure. That's the next step. Yeah. People tend to put things out and they'll show like massive sulfides and they'll show an end of the core which will have like pentlandite cleavages or something. So all the geologists that look at it buy the stock and nobody else knows what the fuck's going on. You know what I mean? So like the
good thing geologists don't have any money. It won't affect the market. It's a good thing geologists don't have any money.
Well, you'd be surprised how many geologists we have as shareholders. I think certain projects are very appealing to geologists because they understand, like in our case, right? They understand the sequence of work that we've gone through, and the sort of like how everything is building up onto the case. The case is building up based on all this evidence that we've uncovered, and they understand at this point that the drill will be. Will have the answers, but they're comfortable taking that risk at this point because they understand the potential scale. They understand that this is a productive camp. They understand it's been exceptional grade at this camp, and they think like we do that there is a realistic chance that we actually find this feeder zone. So
it may be hard. It may be hard to see it here in December with all the blood in the markets, but I think there's also a bid in the exploration space. So, the fact that a geologist is buying it, that may be more bullish now than any time in the last 5 years, really, right? I think more people are paying attention to what smart people are doing. So if there's a story that hangs together and the results start, even the early indications start coming out, I think there's more people paying attention. And
well, Lisa, if you get a discovery, if you get an ore grade intersection, that's $100 million market cap.
Yeah.
Something that you can hang a resource on that's got obviously good grades. Like Kid Creek is one. Louvicourt, that got, ore resources got taken out at $45 and it split 2 for 1. So that was a $1 stock. So that's like $1 to $90.
$100, $100 bagger there.
Yeah.
And I hear the stories of some of these plays, right? And I've read some of the books and studied the history. There's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of chaos around those. It seems like things are a little more well organized, maybe, with what you guys are doing, rather than some of the cowboy stuff that I read about in the books on some of these other big discoveries, right?
Well, there's always the stories get better over time, eh? But there was the geologists ended up getting into that area for a reason. Now a lot of them involve serendipity and everything, but in order for serendipity to occur, you have to be in the right place to give it a chance to occur.
Well, you got to take some shots on the net too, right? You can't.
There's been the Detour Lake gold deposit was found by doing VMS exploration originally. So.
Right.
So.
I wanted to go back to your point, Peter, about there's a bid for the juniors, and I come from a background in investing, and I ultimately predicting the commodity cycles is very difficult. So what's easier to predict, and the one thing that all of us have some skills at is predicting companies that can grow even in the absence of a commodity tailwind, right? And that's either discovery or discovery is the best one, right? If you hit something material, important, that could become a sizable deposit, at that point nobody cares what the commodity is doing, right? Because you go from, our market cap today is 12 million, right? Doesn't matter if copper is down 5% tomorrow. If we hit this thing, our market cap is going to increase multiple fold, right? And that's, in my mind, that is the real way to invest. And the way you're doing it, you talk to people, you try to understand how they think, try to understand what the process is, you try to understand what the ultimate opportunity and the ultimate price could be, and then you make your bets accordingly, right?
Well, and if it's something that's kind of clearly economic too, right? If it's kind of marginal, and then the investors are looking at it like, oh, this is going to cost a lot to drill it off, and we don't know if it's going to matter once it's there, versus something that people are take notice, right? Like, what is that? Those are two different kind of market reactions as well. I wonder for this one, do we have a sense if it could be kind of middling, or if it could really be the standout, grade on the grade tonnage curve relative to these things globally? Could it be one of those?
Yeah, we don't know what the causative bodies of the gravity anomalies are, but they're situated right along strike from previously mined high grade deposits. So, there's a likelihood that they may be very large high grade deposits. That's what we know from the area we're in. Now,
right, so
what else could they be? It could be barren sulfides. It could be iron formation. But we have indications of VMS style alteration. We have enrichments in zinc and sulfides. We have copper occurrences on surface, spatially associated with the gravity anomalies.
Yeah. Any government regional geophysics or anything like that on kind of a Northern Ontario basis?
There's some recent research that's come out by a guy called Chong, who works for the Mineral Deposits Research Institute or whatever it is in Sudbury, and he's put out some recent material that looks at the camp and highlights it as an area of great potential.
Brownfields is the place to be, guys. Well done. I don't know if you can call this Brownfields, but
no, absolutely. I mean, we're adjacent to a well-known mining camp, and back to your point, we know those deposits that were mined were of exceptional grade. So, we expect to be in the same system. So we have expectations for a high-grade system or a high-grade discovery. And like George said, the gravity suggests that these bodies are large. We don't know if they're chalcopyrite. We hope. We hope they're mineralized massive sulfides, in which case we expect them to be large and high-grade. That's what we're going for. There could be something else. There could be barren sulfides. There's no way to know until we drill, but every indication we have on surface and on strike to the Glencore deposit is that this is a richly mineralized system. So, everything indicates that we could hit. But again, Mother Nature, we'll have the drill do the work and tell us exactly what it is.
And do we have a depth range on the rig?
Well,
do we know?
I mean, we're drilling. How do I say this without saying too much? We're drilling at the depth. We're drilling at the depth that we think we have the highest likelihood to intercept the causative body, right? Again, that's based on multiple interpretations of the gravity and the known deposits on the Glencore camp, but it's not going to be too deep, right?
And the drill rig you're using has ability to go deeper.
Yeah, well, I don't know what are they taking in 400 meters of rods, Sam?
Yeah.
No, more than that. But
more than that.
More than that.
Okay, so.
But we're not. We're not drilling shallow, but we're also not drilling deep. We have a
just so long as they're geared up. Just so long as they're geared up and they're ready for what's coming. If it. And are you going to call her off to the side and try and hit it at a perpendicular angle, the proper way? You're not trying to drill and down dip or anything.
No, absolutely not. Because these things are what is it you call it, George? The nature of these bodies is, you hit the perpendicular, kind of like you would hit a quartz vein. Because that also gives you
you always try to drill perpendicular to get as close to true width as possible. But in this very early drilling, we've designed the drilling so you get more than one hole on a section, so you can actually determine the dip. And then a lot of it depends on what we see, because if you hit in the first hole like really good massive sulfides at like shallow depths, then what you do is you just steepen the head and drill underneath it, and then you'll have like 2 points and you can determine a dip,
Yeah, from one collar.
And then you get a better, because it's less it's really easy to do, and you don't have to build new roads and new pads.
Well, and so that's what I was wondering with the sequence of the holes, right? Are you doing your deep holes first, or are you trying to come back to where you had that surface exposure and maybe correlates to the stuff at depth and kind of poke in between? Or
well, the access is via the north, so there's at least 3 gravity anomalies that go. There's a north one, a middle one, and a south one. So what we'll do is we'll go in and we'll drill the north one with multiple holes on a section in order to determine the dip. And then we'll, when we're in, we'll be building the access to the middle anomaly and the south anomaly in order to let it freeze up and have a winter road for accessing. So we're progressing from the north towards the south.
And those first holes on the north one, are those meant to kind of target the same depth intercept along strike, or are you talking about kind of hitting that structural feature at shallow to great depths, kind of stepping back?
It's shallow holes to start.
Yeah, good. Yeah. Well, track the structure and stuff too. Like it may not be the most productive depth horizon at some of these shallower areas, but if you're seeing copper at surface, and if that kind of correlates with the structural interpretation, and you can poke a few holes kind of progressively deeper, it's kind of like maybe a safer strategy a little bit in terms of drilling dollars.
Yeah, well, you want to test all the gravity anomalies.
Yeah.
And then theoretically you pick the best one to follow up on subsequently. Eh?
Yeah.
Like imagine if you got something interesting in the first one, then you could spend all your money drilling that, and then leave the other ones unknown, and they could be better than the first one.
Yep.
So you have to ultimately a systematic approach is most efficient in the long term.
Well, and then combined with prudent management of the program, because the field work has to be done safely. And you can say, oh, well, we'd like to go here, but the guys are saying, oh, it's not quite frozen there yet, or whatever. You have to bring all those systematic approaches to the reality and the chaotic reality of what it's like in the field.
Well, it's in the field, it's actually pretty easy. It's when people in the cities get all excited. And if you ask guys in the city,
it's the other way around. The guys in the city will tell you, oh, it's easy on the street. It's the guys in the field that keep making it hard for us.
Yeah, I know, but that can influence how the management in the field goes, and it generally influences it into an illogical, emotional, market-driven, logistical, costly nightmare.
Yeah, and a lot of wasted time and wasted money, and the windows of opportunity that pass you by, right? So,
anyhow, logic will prevail.
Yeah. Well, and expertise and skill too. It's a skill thing too, right? And I think you guys have a lot of the necessary ingredients on all sides to give this a fair shot, and that's what's happening. So it's amazing. Time flies. I remember 6 months ago we were talking about this, and here we are.
Well, if it becomes illogical and emotional and all out of control, that means we've hit, which is good too.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right.
And then the thing would attract capital on its own merits anyhow. So.
Yeah. And do you have a sense of what that hurdle rate is on meterage or grade, from investment bankers?
That's a very hard question to answer.
I know. Yeah.
It's also, it has to be in the context of everything else you're seeing, right? Naturally,
Yeah.
if you drill 20 meters of 8% copper, that's financeable, period, right? But when you start getting into thresholds, is one of the
50 meters depth, Sam.
We
at
have
50 meters depth, please. You can do it. I believe you. Those things happen.
Well, George, what was the Cave Creek discovery hole that you told me about? 600 feet.
Cave Creek. Yeah, it was 625 feet of massive sulfide, and then the hole was they ran into drilling difficulties, so it was like solid massive sulfide. So that was 625 feet from surface.
Imagine that, Peter. At
1963.
That's like 180 meters of mineral.
That wasn't a true. Well, but the geologist today would yell at you and say, "That's not true width. That's not perpendicular. That's you're drilling down dip. You raked off. You got caught in the structure.
No. The way it reacts is like this. Okay, it reacts because it's new. Okay. Yeah. And that's what gets the big reaction. It's new. So it's not an old property that's re-dredged or the name's been changed and everybody goes, oh, yeah, that thing, it didn't work before in the 60s, it didn't work before in the 80s. You know what I mean? So this is like
now
new.
Somebody's drilling the crown pillar on an old mine. And
it's not like people use this word discovery too often. This would be like a new discovery. No, not
discovery of alteration, George. Have you heard somebody discovered some alteration packages that look at you?
Yes, I've discovered lots of alteration in my life. Ultimately, there's only two types of rocks, eh? There's waste and ore.
Yep, it's simple.
Right. So my point is, some intercepts will be clearly on their own, make it financeable. Some of them will have to be put in the context of everything else we're seeing, right? And more importantly, and I think for us is we have a number of zones, pretty much all together, but you can tell they're different zones. So what does that mean, right? Based on the drilling, on all the drilling we get across, we're ideally going to drill. We have 4 of them. We're going to drill at least 3 of them this first time around. So what do the results from the different zones mean, and do they tie up together? Are they on the same horizon? Is it a different horizon? How does that all fit with the geological interpretation of this package? I think that's going to be also very important, not just the shiny parts, right, of the intercepts. Could this be a bigger system, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Exactly. It's the architecture of the system gets developed as you get more and more information, and it also leads you to prioritize new exploration targets.
But the market, Mr. Market cares about new and shiny and fast, right? He's got ADD.
Yeah,
Mr.
it's new.
Market
It's
there.
new. The market reaction would be it's something new,
Yep. And we can't really drill down the throat of this thing because we haven't hit it yet, right? So whatever we hit, it can't be interpreted as being, and it won't be, frankly. Just we know where we're drilling from. We're drilling shallow, so that we can hit it as best through width as we can.
Yep. Well, and within the constraints of the logistical access, right, and then all these other realities on the field of what you can do. So,
correct.
Well done.
What you can
Impressive,
do efficiently.
Guys. Yeah. Yep. And safely and effectively. It's kind of scary to watch this summer, and even in Newfoundland, right? Like how many people had trouble mobilizing programs, and how busy it was. The labs, everything backed up. The crews, hard to find people. These
it's
like
very
persistent problems.
It's very hard now to find good drillers, and it's one of our periodic boom phases.
Yeah.
it's not the problem is not the equipment, it's the operators. There's just not enough qualified people available. And
experienced drillers are rare.
You can always order more equipment, but you can't get more people. That's the real issue right now. And all the contracting agencies have had the good people taken full time by the companies, right? So they're struggling.
There is enough money.
People in.
There is enough money out there from some of these juniors to keep just buy out rigs for the season, and then the availability is just it's really difficult.
We Sam did a good job organizing the process in advance so we could secure contractors. We were aware of the busyness of the business these days.
Yeah, I saw it in one of the old.
You throw all the travel and COVID considerations in on top of it as well.
It's a mess. Yeah.
So
I was glad to see a few months ago one of the press releases said you guys were taking tender for contracts, and so how many times I don't see juniors even mention that. They just we found a driller. Don't worry about it.
It's harder to find people to work. Like a good diamond driller, they can make tons of money. They can make $2,000 a shift. But people don't want to do that. They can sit at home in their parents' basement on a computer and make money. Playing the Bitcoin and watching markets and stuff like that.
Well, but there are guys out there who do want the hard work, right? And if they're lucky on this one, the drilling's going to be hard drilling too. Hopefully, it's tortured rock and it's real slow going, right? If the geologists are happy, the drillers aren't, and if the drillers are happy, the geologists aren't. So I hope it's a terrible program for them.
Massive sulfides, so you can make a lot of money, and if you have big intersections of massive sulfides. Your production bonus is way up because the drill goes through those like butter, eh?
Oh, does it? Yeah, because I've heard green stuff, porphyry stuff, is that they're really slow drilling.
Yeah.
But that's a different story.
Yeah, massive sulfides, they're soft, eh? The bit goes through that like butter.
But you still get the core recovery. It's not soft to the point of being friable and having problems with core recovery. We're not talking about oxide stuff like that.
No, it's generally pretty good in the the Cambrian field. You don't have tropical weather and groundwater channels and everything like that. And, you get very good core recoveries and very good production.
Well, I'm just excited to see the core. Can't wait.
Pretty cool for you as a first program CEO here, first drill program.
Yeah, it's going to be first time lucky.
And you know what?
Let's go.
I had to plan the whole program myself. I mean, not the drill holes per se, but securing the contractors, etc. Because there is like I said, there's a shortage of everything. So I had to do it upon myself to call the drilling companies, the people at the PDA in Thunder Bay, reach out to a number of people and try to find my way through all the contractors and try to secure people because like there is a shortage even of people to help you with that right now.
Yeah.
So, there's companies that don't even put in a bid for the work, contractors. They're too busy. They won't even bother bidding. And so anyhow, in our owner-operated, low-overhead type of corporate mentality, Sam has jumped right in as the exploration manager, and that's a very good exercise.
Who would have thought from a portfolio manager to a project manager? I love it.
I think it's beautiful. It's giving him a good, well-rounded experience.
Yeah. Well, and then to see the program actually go too, I think it'll really it'll be even more education on the job here real fast.
That's it.
You know what I've learned is that we investors, and I'm one of them, or have been one of them historically, we're too hard on these companies. Like the challenges on the field with the regulatory agencies, with the ministries, with getting people on the ground. You also have to line up different contractors to be available at the same time. That's also very hard because somebody has a drill available right now, but they don't have the camp available and they don't have these other services available. We're too difficult on these junior companies demanding results. It's really hard work. So that's a really, a valuable lesson that I've got from this experience. And you have to give people a pass on some of these things. It's actually legitimately hard work.
Well, it's dangerous too. There's some investors, Sam, who will go in and yell at the CEO, and they'll be like, "Oh, get drilling." And then the CEO listens to them, and then they go off half-cocked, and they drill a program they're not ready for. Cost overruns, problems, and things can get really bad really quick if you get, forced into doing things you're not ready to do by shareholders. I've seen that happen several times.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking.
Well, yeah.
You need to work
wasted money and wasted time, right? Like those are just that hurts, in these companies when they don't have a lot to begin with, right? So the one thing I've appreciated with you guys, you kind of waiting for your fat pitch, line things up, take your time. You're not trying to rush in a big summer program. Just do a few things, get some stuff going. And I hope to hear more technical disclosure. I'd love to see a data room from you guys with all the results and all. Like I know there's stuff on the website and this and that, and I've studied some of what I found, but if you could go overboard in terms of making all the technical information available, for free on the cloud to people, right? And to help us see, more maps and more views and field pics and all the sampling and all the geophysical results, the kitchen sink. There is an audience out there online for people who will do their homework on all this stuff. And if you make it available to them for free and easy, and they don't have to give you their email, they don't have to do this, it's the conferences. They're not happening in person. So, you can do that stuff online. And this call is part of that too. So thanks, for taking the time, you guys. It's a treat.
No, our website has a lot of information. It's not the glossiest, shiniest website, but the one thing we've made a point of is we're always available to answer people's questions. I get a bunch of emails from random people, either investors or people who are just interested or geologists, and I always try my best to get back to them, within a day or two. If I think probably number one job of a public company CEO is to be available for people, whether they're investors or not, right? Because everybody's a prospective investor, right? So I think we do a very good job of getting back to people when they need something from us or they want any further information, as best as we can. Obviously, there's some regulatory restrictions in terms of the things we can and cannot discuss. But outside of that, we're very open and friendly to anybody who wants to send us an email or give us a call. My cell phone is on all the press releases, right? People can call me directly. So I'm always happy to give people information.
Think of all the maps George would have if we were at a conference, right? If this is PDAC, he'd be there stacked up with how many different layers to go through, right? So as much as we can do that and give that data to people online too, I do think there is more of an audience of those do-it-yourself people out there than ever before.
Yes.
Yeah, now, software is more accessible now. Specialized software is more accessible now, so more people have access to it as well to do their own, run their own and run their own programs in their minds and on their computers and get their own ideas.
Well, and they're all, I don't know if they're still working from home or whatever, people are displaced or whatever, but the future of work it's up in the air. There's a lot of changes. So the more play ball with the street on that side, the better. And and particularly as you go drilling and stuff too. And thanks for saying that you'd make the visuals available within reason and stuff like that too. I think you're saying, I think you have the right plan there.
Well, you have
on that.
you have to protect the integrity of the markets. If you hit something really good and somebody in the local bar hears something about it, and then you've got like high volume on your
cell phone. Hey, look at this. Hey, look what I saw today.
Before you've even heard from your geologist on the drill,
God.
that. So that's it's if there's potentially material visuals, you got to put them out or halt the stock or something, you know.
Well, I'll be watching for news on mobilization and all these other things coming soon. Appreciate the update.
Okay. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you, Peter. Anytime.
Bye.
And whenever you want, we can do a full video call with maps and images, etc.
Yeah.
It'll be
shout out to the friend
after.
Brian Gregg. Shout out to my friend there, Brian Gregg, who I was trying to rope him in on this one, but he's got too much with his morning routine. He's not ready to drop everything and talk rocks for an hour and a half like we are. So
I saw this thing in a press release 3 years ago and wanted to drill it.
Oh, beautiful.
You know what I mean?
Did you really? Were you
yeah.
like?
Yeah, it's like a gravity EM map. You know?
And did you keep track of GOSSAN, and did you know them all those years in between, really, at all, or was it?
No, I'd heard of them before, but
you weren't a shareholder or something long term.
Well, I'm in now.
The stock on that. Yeah,
I'm in now.
Well, and that's a credit to some of the people behind the scenes and stuff too, and it takes a lot of people to make these things come together. And shout out Jason Libenson, your capital markets advisor. Great to have him involved in this deal too. I think he plays an important role.
I agree. Okay.
Absolutely.
George Mannard, Sam Pelaez, GOSSAN Resources. Thanks very much, guys.
Good luck. Bye.
Thank you, Peter. Anytime.
Bye.